Hi. Can you hear me? Okay, we need to hear her. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay. Hi Tara. Welcome to this live Q&A that you've so graciously agreed to do with us. That is amazing. Um, I I want to point out a couple things. First of all, I just realized that you guys were a part of that tornado that happened. Was that last week?
Yeah, it hit, I think, on March 2nd. And we live in Nashville, and actually, our neighborhood, which is Donaldson Hills, was in the direct path of the storm and was hit pretty hard. We were very, very fortunate that we did not have any damage to our home or our property. But many of our neighbors and friends were not so lucky. The farm where my horse is, where she lives, was hit, and the barns were destroyed.
Oh no.
And it was a really devastating down there. Luckily, none of the horses were killed, and none of them were seriously injured, which was just a real blessing. So it has been a crazy, crazy week for us here.
Gosh, I bet. And so that happened, and at that point, and we'll get more into details. But your boyfriend Rick was who had COVID-19 first. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. He started feeling sick on March 5th, and he was not diagnosed until earlier this week.
Okay, and real quick, I just wanted to mention, COVID-19. So, is the 19 stand for 2019 when it kind of first hit? Is that what that stands for? Do we know? 'Cause
That's
somebody.
That's what I understand it to be. And I have now seen it called several other things. Even the test that we got back, it was identified as a SARS, SARS. And just a reminder that the coronavirus name is associated with all kinds of other viruses as well. And so, as part of the respiratory test that they did on us, there were several other coronaviruses that were tested. So, the COVID-19 is how I understand they are classifying this particular um, sequence.
Okay, that's the specific one that we're going with.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
awesome. Well, Tara, part of the reason that I find this to be such a unique opportunity is that so many viewers they kind of hear all the news coverage, of course, and they see people, but they don't see people like living with this virus like you are. We also don't hear a ton of stories about people your age catching it. And so many people out there are thinking, I haven't been on a cruise ship or I haven't traveled outside of the country to an infected country. I just, I stay home, I go to work, I should be fine. But in a sense, that's kind of how this worked out for you and your boyfriend, Rick, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So I had not traveled since mid-February, and I was only in New Hampshire and DC. And then I was on vacation in late December, early January in Iceland. And but other than that, that's the only travel that I had done. Rick has not been anywhere outside of our city, and I don't even think we've really been out of town lately. And so, we really don't know how we contracted it or, who we came in contact with. So I think that is one of the things that it's why it took them a little longer to test him because he didn't meet the original criteria for folks that they were going to test. They kept just giving him the flu test, which kept coming back negative. So
Right, right. And then you said that last Saturday was kind of the worst day for you. That's where you were just kind of out of commission. Maybe explain a little bit what that feels like, just because I'm curious. Sometimes I might have the sniffles or get a cough, and of course we're all kind of feeling panicky. But what are some of the symptoms that you initially felt, and how did that day go for you?
yeah, so my symptoms have been milder than Rick's, and I will just say his day one, as soon as he got up, he knew he was sick, and by that I mean he was like he felt like he'd been hit by a ton of bricks. He felt like he had the flu. He was having a fever and chills and sweats, and he just overall was so lethargic. He did not feel well on my day one, and the day that I said, really put me out of commission. I overall was just fatigued. Mitchell, I'll send you a photo privately about what I looked like that day. I got out of bed, I came downstairs, and I literally sat on this couch that I'm sitting on, or laid kind of over it like this. And then the only moving I did was from one side to the other. I barely moved around at all, just tried to drink a lot of fluids. And even on that day for me, I was not running a high fever. My fever was only about 2 degrees up from my normal. So, we just took Tylenol and tried to rest and hydrate, and do all the other things that you do for self-care.
Well, that's a good question. So, in terms of self-care, or even in terms of what they give you once they determine that it is coronavirus, like what are some of the differences? Do they just kind of send you home and say, I mean, there must be something they give you for it?
No, I want to make sure people hear me. Please stop and listen. You're not going to get any special treatment for getting the official diagnosis. I promise. They are not holding some kind of special, vial of good stuff for you.
Oh, really?
They literally will treat your symptoms just like they would any other symptoms that come along with an illness. So Rick has been, the first thing they gave him was cough syrup. They gave him, the second time he went to the doctor, he got a steroid shot. That probably wouldn't be recommended now. I don't really know. No one's mentioned it to us. But, when I tested positive, the doctor sent me away with a prescription strength cough syrup, which I have not taken any of because I'm not being kept up at night coughing, and a little pill for cough during the day, which I've been taking the last couple of days because I was having some shortness of breath, and especially when I was getting up to move around. But everything that we have been surviving on here has literally been home remedies. Vicks Vapor Rub, Tylenol, lots of Gatorade, lots of water. I was drinking throat coat tea when my throat was feeling just icky. And we have just done everything we can to kind of use some of those old home remedies to just help ourselves feel better. I've used a heating pad on my chest just because it feels good, and just have tried to make sure I get up and take a shower every day because that heat really does help us feel better. But there is no special treatment that they're giving. And that's why I really want to make sure folks hear that. And if you're having any symptoms, you can contact your doctor and they can call something in for you to treat those symptoms. But getting tested and even getting a positive isn't getting you anything special. So that some of that hysteria, I think, really needs to just simmer down.
Yeah, that's a good point. And quite honestly, you don't appear sick. I mean, you look totally awake and fine, and you look lively, and you're not coughing. And some of the pictures they show us on the news, or even in the hospitals, you see people lying in beds, and we instantly assume that that's what would happen if you caught the coronavirus. Even though I did see somewhere that 80% of people will just be at home and recover from home, like you're doing. Is there anything that you've had in the past that you would compare this to that feels even similar to what the coronavirus feels like?
I think the best way to describe it is feeling like the flu. And you're right. People have said, you don't look sick. Oh, I wish I looked that good sick. Well, we've talked about this in some of my personal videos. I'm not going to come on here looking a mess. Sorry, but things are going to live for infinity. So I'm going to get myself together to come join you guys. We have been, laying around resting. I am not over here spring cleaning my house. We are really fatigued and we are still taking it easy. We're flipping a coin to see who's going to go get the next bottle of water because we have to go up and down the stairs, which is highly inconvenient. And so even when Rick was in the hospital, he was hospitalized for 24 hours for observation for some mild pneumonia symptoms. They didn't even really do anything for him in the hospital. He got, I think, a bag of fluids, and they really were just monitoring him. They sent him home with a breathing device to just practice breathing so he could keep his lung capacity up. But yes, you're right. Some people who may have other conditions maybe are getting treated differently if they're in the hospital. We don't have any pre-existing conditions, and we're not in a high-risk pool. So we're not smokers, so we're not having trouble breathing on normal days. And so, everything for us has been just like being sick at other times. I will say I definitely felt sicker in my life. And for me, because I have a lot of discomfort with sinus and allergies year round, one of the things that's so uncomfortable for me is when I have a lot of snot. And so I've been sicker with that kind of thing before, where you really felt like you were going to choke because you had so much going on. And, this is a pretty dry cough. I only had about a day of some productivity with my cough. I had a little cough this morning where it was slightly productive. Mostly it's just kind of a hack and it's annoying. It was mostly feeling like a tickle. If you took a deep breath, it was like a little tingle. That would make you want to hack, but other than that, we've just been really fatigued and have just felt worn out.
I see. What about the, you mentioned at one point the test itself is somewhat of a painful or uncomfortable procedure. Can you describe what you go through just to get the test for COVID-19?
I would love to. So they took a very long swab and rammed it up one nostril up into like my brain cavity. And then they took another one and rammed it up in this side. And they shook them around vigorously. And then they took another one of those and they jammed it down my throat and they swabbed it around vigorously. And then they also had to do a flu test, which is very similar, although it was not quite as vigorous. So for me, that was like seriously one of the most painful 24 to 36 hours was after that test. Again, I mentioned that I suffer with these issues year round with my sinuses and allergies. I'm very sensitive in that area. And I had a throbbing in my face and in my sinuses literally for 24, 36 hours that I could not shake after getting that test done.
Wow. Well, somebody actually, while we're talking about tests, brought this up on Facebook and said that they weren't able to get tested. Do you have to show certain symptoms before the hospital will say, okay, I realize there's a limited amount of tests. I think in South Dakota they said maybe 1,000 or so. So I get that. So I'm assuming there has to be something that you have to, some kind of symptom you have to show. What would that be?
Yeah. So if you are asymptomatic, meaning you do not have symptoms, there's no reason for you to get tested, and they are not going to test you. A friend of mine her employer overreacted and canceled all her shifts and then sent her to get tested. And while they accepted her and did a swab, they did not send her test to the lab because they're not going to test people who are not having symptoms. So all of this hysteria about the test, I really, as a person who, has had the test and we tested positive, like you don't need to have the test if you're not showing any symptoms. And even if you are showing symptoms, there may not be a reason at this point to have the test. It probably depends on where you are. Rick was number 8 in our state and number 2 in our county to be diagnosed. And that's why they sent me for a test. The day that he got his test results, and they are tracking us closely with the epidemiologist at the Department of Public Health because we are some of the first few cases in our state and in our county.
Okay, gotcha. And I gather that Rick doesn't love to be on camera. Is that what's going on? Because I've never seen him on any of your videos.
It's now so elusive. We should leave him that way. Everybody wants to see him, so we'll see what he says. He keeps shaking his head and saying no.
I bet. And you also have a pet. I saw some people were asking, which is a very cute dog, by the way. If he's nearby, we'd love to see him. But I saw some people were asking if this can be transmitted to animals or to pets. Do you know the answer on that?
So some of the things that you're seeing with the tip sheets, including the tip sheet that was put out by my healthcare institution, which is Vanderbilt University Medical Center, it suggests just staying out of your pet's face if possible. If someone else in the household can take care of their needs, they're recommending that. But there has been nothing confirmed by the Veterinary Medical Association that it is transmissible between humans and pets. And they have a website, or they have a portion of their website devoted to COVID. So I would just suggest that folks obviously check that website. That's just as good as checking with your veterinarian. Our veterinarian sent out an email about that. And, just keep a look. For those who may see for folks who may see the tips about keeping the dogs out of your face, obviously whoever wrote that does not have a dog or a cat that's a close talker. My dog is literally in my face all the time, and he does not care. If I try to push him away, he will paw at us, and he is just like right there. So, we have not treated him any differently. We have been doing, just all of our normal stuff, making sure he's taken care of. He's finally resigned to just napping with us. He was very irritated the first couple of days because we were home, but we weren't taking him for walks. So.
Oh, gotcha. Tell me about when you do finally, get tested positive for it. I assume they go back into your history of who you've been hanging out with and how long you've spent with those people, and then do they go on quarantine? What was your experience with that?
Are you guys there?
Oh, shoot.
I've lost audio.
Can you hear it, Sean? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You
Yeah,
can?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but I was saying once you do get tested positive for it, they go back, I assume, in your history to see who you've been hanging out with. So how many days do they go back, and how long do you have to be exposed to those people? What was that experience like?
Yeah, they checked with us on our.
Ah, look at him. What's his name again?
It's Willie Nelson.
Oh, I
He's
love it.
really, let's see if I get you a good. He's so cute. Rick's getting him some snacks, so that'll help his calm him down. He likes to really stick close to me and protect me. Yeah, so they are only going to track someone who has been in contact with us once we were symptomatic. So for me, that was last Saturday. That was my day one. For Rick, his day one was on Thursday. And so they just, tracked us just like they would any other communicable disease they're tracking, and asked who we came in contact with, for how long, and under what circumstances. So, for example, anybody, what they're considering close, in close quarters, is anyone who was in 6 feet of you, specifically like face to face, for 10 minutes or more. So there were people that I saw outside in fresh air that they were not concerned about tracking. They did not want their information. There were people that I had been in closer contact with that they wanted to follow up with, including a friend that I had dinner with a couple of days after not feeling well. And again, I felt really crappy on Saturday, and then I was feeling fair for a few days, still a little fatigued, but not just totally wiped out. And so yeah, it's they're going to track those folks. They're going to follow them along to see if they're going to develop symptoms, and then they'll just go from there.
And they're telling you that you should stay put until, I think you said March 20th or something around there.
So they have asked us to self-isolate or self-quarantine for 14 days minimum from day one. So I was the last one diagnosed. So, I'll be doing that until at least Friday, maybe Saturday. And we'll just wait for the all clear from the folks at the public health department to tell us that it's okay to go move about the population. I'll go ahead and mention, because lots of people have asked about how they're going to cut you loose. The day that Rick was diagnosed, they told us that the current standard was going to be that at the end of the 14 days, he would be tested. Fun. He would be tested.
Again?
If it came back negative, I know. And then 24 hours later, they would test him again. And if that came back negative, they would turn him loose. The very next day, by the time my test came back, that information had already changed. That is just like too much for them to manage, and that is not how they're handling it anymore. So they're going to be tracking our symptoms, and at the end of the 14 days, if all of our symptoms are clearing up and they think it's safe for us to kind of go out and be around people again, then we will take their advice, and that's what we'll do.
Gotcha. And just to reiterate really quick, you guys weren't on a cruise. You weren't, overseas to China or an infected country. But do you know specifically, or do you have a hint of where it may have come from?
No, we really don't. Rick works in some hospitality, but there is nothing that has indicated to us that that's where it came from. And again, I had traveled in, mid-February, but not to an affected country. I was traveling domestically. And so we just really don't have any idea.
That is really, yeah. I mean, I was just looking at the South Dakota stats, and I think just this morning they said there's only 9 cases, but they're spread out into 7 different counties. So you would think if there was 9 cases, they would all be in one town, one county, but they're very spread out, and so that's why I just think it's so curious as to how people are getting this.
Yeah, people were asking questions. I saw, overheard some questions at a press conference where folks were asking if the people who'd been diagnosed in our county or in our state knew each other. And it made me laugh because, it's like you say you're from one state and everybody asks you if you know someone. We don't know anybody else who has been diagnosed. And so, we know each other, but we don't know anyone else. And as far as we know, we've not come in contact with anyone else who has been diagnosed.
And even before this, you had mentioned that you guys don't necessarily really go to the grocery store that often. You kind of have them deliver, so you don't even really put yourself at risk.
Yeah, I am spoiled. So I am a full-time teleworker. Unless I'm traveling for work, I am working from home. And so I am not out and about very often. And because of my schedule and just preferences, I tend to place all of my grocery orders online. Occasionally we need to run in to grab something that maybe isn't available from the online shopping cart. But otherwise, we're not really out in a lot of public places. Rick works full time and he goes to school full time. And so, we weren't out doing a lot of extra socializing or anything like that.
And and speaking of shopping and preparing for things, if you were to go back and prepare for catching the coronavirus, what would be some of the things you would stock up on? Obviously, tons of toilet paper, I'm guessing.
There are no GI symptoms related to this illness. So if you are stockpiling toilet paper, please stop. Our our shelves are wiped out here, and we really were down to 2 rolls of toilet paper. So luckily, a friend dropped us off a package because she had extra, and then some friends in Wisconsin sent us a couple of packages, which is very kind of them. They don't have the hysteria going on there yet, so they still had inventory. Some of the things that I would say to have at home, juices that you like, anything that you think you might feel like drinking when you're unwell. Again, we've all been sick before, so whatever it is that you like to drink when you don't feel great, I would say avoid caffeine if you can, because if you are drinking caffeine, it's counterproductive to trying to hydrate you. We usually keep Gatorade on hand, and we actually were getting low when we were told to stay home. So some friends brought us over some Gatorade, and we were also able to place an order with our grocery order to get some more of that in here. So juice, Gatorade, if you like herbal teas and things like that, it's great to have those things around. The Vicks Vapor Rub has been helpful. Again, we put on the days that we did have some coughing, put that on our feet at night, and it really did help us. And you can even put it on your chest, so that's helpful. Yeah, that's really all I can think of. We thought we wanted some soup, and somebody brought us about 40 cans of it, and we've eaten maybe one because we just do not have an appetite. So, definitely have some stuff around that's easy, because you're not going to feel like preparing anything. You probably won't even feel like heating up that soup. But, if you feel like you could drink broth or something like that, you'll know yourself best. That is not how I roll. So Yesterday I literally was thinking, I could probably eat a Reese's cup. And then I opened my package from my friend in Wisconsin. She had sent me toilet paper and Reese's. So I ate one Reese's egg, which for me is a very minor consumption. and that was all I could do. And that was all I had to eat yesterday.
Wow. Somebody said here, what are the symptoms of pneumonia that Rick was experiencing? You said that he went into the hospital for, was it just 24 hours? And
yeah,
what was he feeling?
He was in for 24 hours. He was having shortness of breath, and he was feeling like he was having trouble breathing, and it was mostly that he was feeling like he couldn't catch his breath. So, I have not experienced those symptoms unless I've moved up the stairs too quickly, or if I've been over too swiftly.
Well, that's common for me every day, so I'm
that's
screwed.
What one of our friends said as well. We were laughing about it because I said, it can be hard to tell if you already have these symptoms. Maybe that's no big deal for you. But they just wanted to monitor him once they checked and did a chest x-ray, and they saw that he had a mild case. They just wanted to observe him to make sure he wasn't getting worse.
Okay. Another thing I saw, somebody had sent out a post saying you can home test yourself if you just do this 10-second breathing exercise, and which is really annoying because the next day a bunch of people said to me, I did that 10-second test and I'm fine. So you had said that you can do that test just fine as well, yet you are one of 3,000 Americans who have the coronavirus.
Please stop with these Facebook tests. Please, please, please. It is not true. It is not true. Yes, I can hold my breath for 10 seconds and I don't go into a coughing fit or pass out or anything else. I've also seen just lots of crazy stuff. My mom has sent me some things that folks have sent her wanting to see if I'd verify it. And again, I'm not a medical professional.
Right.
But you shouldn't be looking to, any of these memes that are just being passed around for important information like this. Go to the sources. The CDC is where you need to check, or your local public health department, to get the latest information. That is available. If you have any concerns, talk to your healthcare provider. If you don't have a regular healthcare provider, I'd like to encourage folks to use telehealth. If they have never used it, there's an app that I have used called Doctor on Demand. It's available through our insurance benefit. And so I have used it before when I've been experiencing other kinds of symptoms, and they've been able to help check me out just like we're doing here virtually. And then they've been able to call in, some prescriptions. And so, take advantage of some of those modern technologies if you feel like you need something for your symptoms. Again, just please stop spreading these kinds of rumors on Facebook. It doesn't, and anywhere else, a Twitter sphere or wherever you're spreading them, it's not helpful to anybody. And if you stop sharing it, they will stop circulating. So one of the things was something about the cooties staying in your throat for I don't know how many days. And if you drank a bunch of water, all this stuff would happen. And it was this very dramatic looking photo. It's like, I don't even know where that came from, but it did not look legitimate at all. So, just think about it, check your sources. If you have any questions about something that someone has shared, you can check those websites like Snopes.com, and they can help you see if it is a myth that has been busted already. I just checked it this morning, and there were several things that were posted there. So just do your research and think about things before you share them to think, are they going to be helpful?
Right. Good advice. What is your stance on Facebook right now? Just even going through and seeing all the news feed being about coronavirus, and I mean, some of it's funny memes or jokes, and some of it is like complete panic and fear. So it's across the board. How are you handling Facebook?
Well, I have a little bit of a sick sense of humor, so I was saying, I can take a joke even if it seems too soon for some people, because I like to laugh through most of life.
Good.
So what has been making me crazy is the hysteria, and I will say, that is why I decided to start doing the Facebook videos on, honestly, the very first video I did was because once I started telling my friends and family that Rick had received the diagnosis, they just bombarded me with questions, and I was like, oh my God, I can't keep responding to everyone individually, and I didn't want to start a text thread or something like that because there were just too many of them. And so I did the first Facebook Live video to try to update our friends and family about what was going on, and to be able to answer any questions that they had as they were coming up. And one of my girlfriends actually asked if I could make it public and shareable because she was seeing so much, and she's about 10 years younger than me, and she was seeing a lot of craziness in her timeline. And so I decided to just take a chance and go public with those videos, and I'm really glad I did, because it seems like it has been able to calm a lot of people's fears. It's put a face with this kind of scary, unknown illness, and I have been very candid in answering questions. So, at this point, I'm not really getting a lot of new questions. People are starting to ask me questions like, what kind of makeup do you use? Which lets me know that I have been very thorough in my answering of
Cover
questions.
the gamut.
So, so please, if you haven't seen those, go back and watch them. I've identified them from the beginning, and you can really track the whole story there. I've been just trying to collect questions as they come in and respond to them as I do a new video update. And so, yeah, that's it. Oh, I will say, just today there was one group that I'm in where people just continued to, that every day it was new posts and multiple posts a day where people just seem to be getting themselves hyped up more. And so I asked a friend who's also in this group with me if she thought I should share something, because it's an awesome group, but sometimes there are some folks who are very sensitive, and we just didn't know how they would take it. And she really encouraged me to share, because she said, folks will take it for what they'll take it, but you've really calmed a lot of people down, so I think you should share your story. So I did that actually just before we got on here today. And I'll just say, I've had to tell my mom, I've had to tell a couple of my friends and family members, the panic and hysteria has literally never helped in a crisis situation. Like, you have to remain calm. And if you're worried about your friends and family and all that stuff, it's understandable. But please try to keep yourself in check and just remind yourself that if you get it, you'll deal with it then. Worrying about it really isn't helpful. That puts extra stress on your body. And so the worry is not going to help. My mom could be the world's leading expert on worry. And literally worry has never, ever, ever helped her, to avoid something. If it's going to happen, it'll happen, and you'll just deal with it then. So just kind of tell yourself that, just remind yourself of that information, check some of those self-care tips, and try to prepare in that way so that you can make sure you're staying comfortable as you ride out the symptoms if you do start feeling unwell.
That's really great advice, not to be afraid of it before it even happens, which I think is what everybody seems to be doing right now. One really quick question. There's a couple questions that people keep asking that I just want to clear that up, and I'm sure you've answered them many times, but the biggest one I think I keep seeing on here is, can you catch it again? I know that you're not a health expert, but you've probably at least researched it enough or asked enough doctors to find out this. Is it like the chicken pox where you catch it once and you'll never catch it again, or can you recatch COVID-19?
So it's funny, because you've been following along, that I'm in daily contact with the epidemiologist at the public health department here. And so I take these kinds of questions directly to him because he often has that information before it's really been released to the public. That is still an unknown. There is an expectation that you have developed some antibodies after you have gone through it, but they don't know how long that lasts. They are conducting research. So when Rick left the hospital, they sent him home with a flyer about some research that they were doing to try to research the antibodies and to develop vaccines or treatments or whatever. And so we've emailed them, and they're going to get back in touch with us tomorrow when they think it's the right time to collect our blood to test it. So folks are working on those sorts of things now. There are just still a whole lot of answers that we don't have.
Gotcha. And back to your situation, I assume that people in your community are aware, or some people know that you have the virus. Is there anything that your community is doing to slow down this process, or to stop spreading the virus, or even just the mere fact that people in your community have contracted it? Is anything happening that's different?
Yeah, so I think just like every other place in the last few days, they have started to, cancel lots of group activities. For example, at our YMCA, they have started to, cancel non-essential things. They have, canceled school for a while. There are employers where people are able to work from home, where they're doing that, and they're just taking all the precautions that they can to help flatten the spread, and to save space for folks who really might have compromised immune systems and need those hospital beds, or need that extra care that might be provided to manage the symptoms.
And how informed were the doctors and the nurses that prescribed you? I mean, this is new for them too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It was just, Rick went to a clinic close by several times and was tested for the regular flu. And after that second test, when he's like, something is wrong with me, he went to a different clinic. The first clinic was not our regular healthcare provider's clinic. It was just the one that was most convenient to us. And so we went out there. They seem to be staying current on all of the information. Vanderbilt is a medical school and a research hospital. And so we have just felt confident in what they've told us to do. They have been taking great care with us. When Rick talked to his primary care doctor about the symptoms he was having before he went into the hospital, someone called him directly, and they met us, as soon as we pulled into the ambulance bay at the hospital. I drove him there. He did not go in an ambulance. And so, they have just been telling us as much as they know. Again, that's a reason that I did these videos. I feel like people are looking to the government and even looking to healthcare professionals to try to give them more information. And I just don't know what more information people want from folks who are trying to do things like slow the spread, and from folks who are trying to treat sick people. And so that's why I wanted to share our story and answer questions that people have about what it's been like for us and what has worked for us to try to help treat our symptoms, to hopefully remove some of the mystery.
Well, like I said before, your videos have calmed so many people, including the people who are watching today. So thank you so much for doing that. I mean, like I said, a lot of us, assume that only somebody in their 80s will catch this, or have concerns with this, and that even if you catch it now, you'll be in the hospital, where most people, like 80%, are recovering from home. So it's nice to see, your face and to put a face to it. I don't suppose that you realize, I mean, you definitely deserve to be famous. Did you think that you would be famous because you're one of 3,000 people who got the coronavirus?
This is not how I imagined becoming famous at all. In all the many years that I thought, oh, I wonder if it never was through something like this. So
hopefully it's glad. A pandemic. Hopefully a pandemic.
Oh my God. I'm just glad to be able to help. And a friend of mine actually just reminded me, someone who went to the same university that I did, that I have a degree in health administration. I have a master's in public administration, and perhaps that's also why I thought it was important to speak out. So, she's like, hey, you're putting that degree to good use. And I said, wow, I never even really thought about it like that, because I've not worked in a hospital setting or anything like that. I've always been more in a public service type role. So just happy to be able to help.
Well, that's a good point. And I was thinking, out of the 3,000 people who do have it, there probably aren't a ton who really want to go out and talk about it. Not to mention, like you said, you're tired, you're fatigued, you're not feeling at your best. So it's a big service that you're doing to step up and to do your lives on your own Facebook page, and also to be so generous to come on this page and to answer all these questions and to help some of the people here in the Midwest and in South Dakota. And in fact, after this live video, which we're going to wrap up, we actually have had you for like an hour, which thank you for doing that. But we're going to have Dakota News is actually going to do a FaceTime with you quickly and talk a little bit about your experience and also about your experience as somebody who kind of is a face to the coronavirus and reaching out and kind of calming a lot of fears amid so much, so much chaos that seems to be out there right now. Cancellations of basically everything, including school in South Dakota, for at least this next week. So a lot of children are curious and worried. Parents are stuck at home trying to explain it to them. And hopefully this video in your face can help, kind of ease their mind a bit.
Yeah, I've heard actually from a couple of parents, people I don't know, who said that the videos have really helped their children, especially teens and preteens who really were having some anxiety about this. And so they've been following along, and it's really nice to hear that it's helping, people of all ages. And that is exactly why I've continued to do them. And I've kind of saved my strength to be able to do the video updates. Because like you said, I am fatigued. I know I don't look super sick. And after we do these interviews, I will probably lay in the bed for the rest of the day. And so, just to give a reality check that I'm not running around the house like scrubbing, baseboards and stuff like that.
Right.
It really, as I messaged you earlier, I said, I'm moving slow. I may be a few minutes late because I'm trying to get myself together. And so, I just think it's really important, at least, to keep tracking this as long as we have a story worth telling. And I am fortunate that I love the camera, and the camera loves me.
And the camera loves you. Come on.
I know, right? Several of my friends have said I was made for TV, and I should have had my own show a long time ago. And so, knowing that I'm comfortable sharing this platform and being able to share the details, it has been, just a blessing in this case, because you're right. There are folks who, first of all, don't feel like it, but also might not feel like they have the confidence to talk about what they're experiencing,
right,
or to answer the barrage of questions. I've always been in very public facing roles in my career, and I've had to do a lot of talking with the media and talking to the public and answering hard questions when we didn't have answers. So, I felt really prepared to do this.
That's really amazing. And you have no idea what service you are providing to everybody. I really appreciate it. We all appreciate it. And we, of course, wish you and Rick the best. Do you feel every day you're getting a little bit better? Is that kind of how it goes?
So it's funny. Yesterday, we really didn't have a change much from Friday. And I, that I had a migraine on Friday afternoon and evening, and I was just moaning and groaning all night Friday night because I was so uncomfortable with a headache. And all day yesterday, I had a lot of sinus pressure and congestion. So I felt really crappy yesterday. Today, we woke up pretty early because we went to bed. We kind of went to bed early and slept well. And when we woke up, we both felt noticeably, we had a noticeable improvement. I'm not saying we had like 100% or even a 50% improvement. But when we woke up this morning, we were like, okay. Rick even said, I feel like I could eat a cheeseburger today. So, we haven't even, like you would say food, and we're just like, no, I don't, there's nothing that I can think of that I want. All I want is more beverages, And so, yeah, I think that by this point, every day we're hoping for more improvement as we get closer to like a 2 week or even just a little over a 2 week mark of our first sick day.
That's I wondered about that. I guess till the 20th, March 20th is when your day 14 is. Is that correct? So you're kind of counting down the days, and and we'll go ahead and count those days down with you and say prayers and hope that you guys are all feeling better every single day.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And, I just want to, while you said that, I just want to mention, I'm not hanging our hat on us being released on Friday or Saturday. So we don't feel like going anywhere anyway. So we're not, somebody said, do you have cabin fever? I was like, no. Like, have you watched any good movies? No, we haven't. We haven't really been watching TV. I've been like staring at the wall. That's what I do when I'm not doing my Facebook update.
Yeah.
We've just kind of been trying to get done what we need to get done. It's starting to look like hoarders around here because we open boxes. We don't, we've got trash bagged up and tied, but we're not taking it outside right now. And so, we're just doing the minimum that we have to do to get by. And so we're not really expecting, that they're just all of a sudden on day 14 going to be like, okay, you'll have a party,
Right.
We're just standing by waiting one day at a time.
And I guess, do you even know when you get to that day 14, can they extend it? Or have people hit that day 14 and since they've been better, everybody or all the, the professionals are saying that 14 days should be enough time. Is that what they're going with?
I have no idea because, again, we're some of the first. There's cases are still like only 30 in our state or something. So we don't know the answer to that. And they're just using that rule of thumb and saying a minimum of 14 days.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, we'll wish you the best and keep counting down with you. But thank you again so much for doing this and for easing people's minds and for putting a face to this pandemic. I know I feel better, and I hope everybody else does. And thanks again for talking with our local news after this to kind of help ease some of the minds of South Dakotans in general.
Yes, really you bet. Thank you so much for setting this all up. I love South Dakota. Some of my favorite people live there, and I've been to your great state several times. So, hey to all y'all in South Dakota who I know. I look forward to a visit when all of this is over, and we can have a for real party.
Yes, that would be great. I would love that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tara. You are the best. I so appreciate you doing this for us today.
You bet. Thank y'all so much.
Yep. Take care.